How did you like that, Kirk?
Oh, you did a beautiful job. That was phenomenal questions, and that really got at kind of the heart of the topic. So
Yeah,
it led right into the whole story is really more about what people can overcome,
that's right.
and it's
That's
the
right.
reason I like to help people.
Yeah.
It's not everybody gets a second chance,
No,
so I
they
figure
don't.
I'm here for a certain reason, and honestly, it's more fun to
Yeah.
to to be a good person.
Kirk,
I've gone the other side, so
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hi, folks. My name is Girish Bally, the host for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics for another week. We're almost done. Season 2 is almost done, and I'm so glad and very fortunate to have amazing people like you who are listening to the show, reviewing the show, rating the show, and the guests on the shows are totally awesome. So thank you all for supporting me so far, and cannot be waiting for season 3 to come. And if you just follow me, you'll see a whole bunch of stuff coming up there. So today we're going to talk about transformation, how transformation happens when it comes to coaching, when it comes to your mind, when it comes to your body, when it comes to anything else. I know there's a lot of people out there who talk about transformation, but the main question is, why do we need to? How do we need to? And what do we need to do? And those are the things that we'll be talking about that today. And this person, I've spoken to him many, many months. I've known him a while now, and his name is Kirk Patrick Miller, an amazing person. So let's go and talk to him. Let's talk about the transformation and why is it so damn important in our lives. So let's talk about that. So, Kirk, how are you? And thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
oh, doing really well. A phenomenal introduction. For me, I struggled so much in the beginning of my life, and what really kind of led me to teaching others and guiding others through that whole process was doing it myself.
Mm,
I think some things, well, experience is always helpful. It doesn't matter what industry you're in.
mm,
The more you have, the more value you can add to the people that are coming and looking to go down the same kind of path.
right.
Um, and like you said, it doesn't matter what you're doing. We're all looking to be our best,
That's right.
and transform into what we want. That's is a fun topic, and I'm glad to be here. So,
Yeah, Kirk,
um,
thank you again for coming on to Back to Basics. But before we talk about what we're going to be talking about today and about you and what you do and what you don't do, what does Back to Basic mean to you?
um, for me, I love that um, particular phrase because our fundamental skills are so valuable. And when I'm working with individuals, a lot of times, at least to me, back to basic kind of goes like resetting myself and saying, okay, what matters to me? Where are my goals going? Am I getting off on a tangent? And am I doing something? You know, we
Mm,
start too many projects. I
mm,
mean, there's so many different examples, but focusing in on what really matters in that moment, and with the future in mind as well,
mm,
and then learning from the past. So it's kind of taking all your experiences, pulling them back in, and saying, okay, let's
mm,
look at what the fundamental essence of what we're trying to do on this planet.
mm,
And if that's for somebody to say, write a book, well, if that's your goal, why are you doing,
mm,
podcasts and, other things? So
mm,
it's kind of refocusing on the key concepts that are important to us, and to our vision for
mm,
our legacy or our dreams. That's
mm.
how I would say it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kirk, for answering that question. Thank you again for coming on the show. Definitely honored here, Kirk. So let me ask you two questions before we get into the show, right? The first question is, what does chaos mean to you?
So for me, I think if we just look at the definition, that's not necessarily what it means to me. So that's a great question. When everything is falling apart around you, or you feel like that,
Mm,
that to me is like just a perfect definition of chaos. And we all have days like that where everything is going wrong and things are just falling apart. And for me, my life was really falling apart for a long time.
mm,
And um, everywhere I looked, not only was there kind of chaos in my life in terms of things that are problematic,
mm,
but um, I kind of, that was all I could see. So
mm,
in a lot of ways, I kind of brought more into my life. I caused chaos.
mm,
So again, I guess when you really say, what does it really mean to me? It's something that's uncontrollable. It tears your life apart. And oftentimes, we feel really lost in that whole process because we don't know what's going on. So it's
mm.
something that's a little unpredictable. And it comes in, it has a massive effect on our life experience, and our mental state and who we are. So great question, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. And the second question before we get into the show, what does transformation mean to you?
So for me, transformation is all about becoming a version of myself
Mm,
that people will remember and want to talk about.
mm,
So, in other words, my goal in my lifetime is to become something where I leave a legacy that is it helps others.
mm,
So, transforming is something where we can always move forward.
mm,
So, it's a never ending process. The moment we stop trying to become a better version of ourselves, that's kind of when we stop progressing. So, to
mm,
me, transformation is kind of a spectrum that never really ends. You
mm,
have kind of before anybody starts realizing who they are, what they want to become, and you have kind of that end where we're reaching like the end of our life.
mm,
We've left a good legacy, we've done everything we can, and there's still room that we want to improve on.
mm,
So it's a never ending process, but the end goal is to feel successful and proud each day. If you can do that, it doesn't matter if the steps are small or big, the transformation will happen and it'll get there.
mm, mm. Kirk, thank you so much for answering those two questions. And the reason why I said transformation, because that's what the show is all about today. And the chaos is because your idea is chaos to cure. So, it fits right in for this show. So thank you again for answering those questions. Now, the the question that I have now is that how do we unleash the inner potential of your skill, of your what have you, right? And make that transformation, because some people, they are a little scared to make that step, or
Uh,
maybe very hesitant. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think the last part that you just mentioned, the hesitancy and the fear, that's a big part of it. I think one of the first steps we have to do is understand what our purpose is. So, what we want to accomplish. If a lot of times people say, "Oh, I want to do this," or I want to become an artist. I want to become, a performer. I want to, go to an Ivy League school. I want to become an engineer. Whatever that goal is, um, life gets in the way. So a lot of times we're bouncing around, and when we lose focus on what that is,
Mm,
or we kind of forget about what we really want to accomplish,
mm,
then that first step isn't there. So the first step is kind of realizing what we want to become.
mm,
The second step is realizing too that we're worth it.
mm,
So I think a lot of people get stuck in between kind of step one and two because they know what they want to do. And I'm speaking from personal experience where I really didn't feel deserving
mm,
of success.
mm,
And if you know where you want to go and you don't feel like you're qualified or you're deserving of it,
mm,
you're going to keep putting up mental blocks in front of yourself.
mm,
So that would be the second one, is honestly believing in yourself, believing in your process. And then from there, it's just a matter of, okay, now I know what I want to do, what I want to accomplish. I believe I'm capable. I believe I'm deserving of it. So then it's just a matter of, okay, let's pinpoint, fine tune, narrow the focus, and then you take steps from that point forward. And honestly, even just taking a first step of realizing what you want out of life is going to make a profound effect anyway. So a lot of times people don't know, for years. I mean, I had no idea some of the things I would end up doing with my life. And now I really kind of know. And luckily those things have helped lead me to having the right skill sets. So that would be, one of those things afterwards, like building up skills, and setting yourself up for success, and of course planning.
Yeah, thank you again, Kirk, for answering that. Let me ask you this, right? And here's a scenario. I don't know that I have potential, but you see potential in me. So how do you bring that fire into me to believe that I can do it, or I just don't see it? I mean, what are your thoughts on that part?
That's something that is, I think we all have moments of doubt. I don't think there's a person out there that has ever, been born and just knows from day one to, the end of their life, every single day, I'm the best. I deserve it. Now there may be some, in terms of not being, completely there. That's a totally different subject. So before I go off on a tangent, when someone else doesn't believe in themselves, it can stem from so many different places. So that comes down to, in my honestly, in my experiences, most people are honestly being really hard on themselves. The first step I really suggest for people that are not believing they're worthy is actually to, look inwards, honestly forgive yourself for the things that you failed on in the past, the mistake you made last week, the mistake you made last year, all of those things. Once you kind of forgive yourself, then you can move on to the next step, which is like, okay, how did those things help me? Because all of our experiences, good and bad, are data. So when we look at it objectively, it gives us a lot of information about ourselves, what we're capable of doing. But we have to forgive ourselves first. And then, if somebody really is in a state where they don't feel worthy of anything, it's a longer process with the same outcome. It's baby steps. It's constantly, reminding yourself of the good things you do. So being grateful for what you have just in the moment is actually helpful. But what I typically suggest for people to do is, take out a journal, write in there, like everything that you've done well. So many people, I have actually, speaking of my own family, I have two amazing little nieces, and, my sister is always worried about them being successful. Of course, she's a normal parent. She wants them to be successful at every single thing.
Of course.
And it's always about, oh, they haven't done this, they haven't done this, they haven't done this, they haven't done this. And I'm like, wait a second, look at what they did accomplish. So a lot of times, we're kind of programmed to see what we are missing instead of what we have. So I typically suggest for people that are in that state to start making a journal of the things they have accomplished. I love LinkedIn for that purpose, actually. It's a great place to just store some of your accomplishments. And then, when you are feeling kind of low and you're not feeling deserving, you can kind of go back to your notebook and flip it over and be like, wow, these are all the things I've actually accomplished. Most people have done far more than they realize. And every single person is deserving of happiness and finding and reaching their dreams. So, a lot of it can be hard, and it can come from different places. It can come from mental health, aspects where somebody might have a condition. It can come from a family history, trauma. So, all of those things all require for us to love, ourselves.
Mm,
And so the moment you can kind of forgive yourself, give yourself grace is a phrase that became kind of popular. And it's one that I really like. So
mm,
when you're gentle on yourself, and then again, every reminder works with neuroplasticity. So the
mm,
idea that we have these neural pathways that we have, and we're constantly telling ourselves we don't deserve something, we're not successful. Well, every
mm.
time you think that, it makes that pathway easier to access.
Of course, of course.
So what we want to do is use neuroplasticity, do the exact opposite. So when you're feeling like that, you open up your journal, you go, oh, look, I did this. And
Mm,
slowly you can kind of change the direction
mm,
of our thought process.
mm,
And the more often we do it, the easier it is, the more successful we can become at actually reframing our existence and how we
mm.
perceive things.
Yeah, Kirk, thank you again for answering that question. But let me ask you this quick question, and I'll tell you a small story. When Thanksgiving and Christmas comes in, and the first question that everyone asks on the table is, "What are you grateful for?" What is the first thing that you say?
The very first thing I'm grateful for is getting a second chance.
Right.
Being alive, just honestly being here. Because there are a lot of people that had the conditions and struggles that I have faced, and they did not necessarily, they there's a lot that are still struggling with it. So
Mm,
being in the place where I am now, I can't be more grateful. And it's one reason I want to kind of pay it forward. So
mm,
that one's always an easy one. I don't need things, those we all like nice things, but they're not necessarily a need for me. I want to be able to do the passions I love, and I wouldn't be able to do that if
mm.
I wasn't here. So that's always the first thing I'm grateful for.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kirk. But the reason why I asked this question is because most of the people they are thankful for the people around them that they're there, or maybe they are just really thankful that the food is on the table. I mean, that's what the generic statements are, and it seems those are just generic, and you say it because just to be funny or just let it go, right? And it's not really a real thing. And the reason why I say that is because I read this book a couple of years back, and I'm still reading it because this book actually really resonates with what I'm doing for the last couple of years now. This book is called Compound Effect. Everyone has heard this from this show that I resonate with this book, and I solely believe in it. So this book actually tells me to write in each and every accomplishment or happiness or gratefulness each day. And then at the end of the year, give it to that person or give it to me as a gift that, wow, these are the things that I was grateful for. And I never really thought of it till that day. Uh, so that's one experiment that I did, and it kind of worked, Kirk. So I don't know
Oh,
if you
wow.
or not, but what are your thoughts on that?
I love, what was the title of the book again? Just
Uh,
so
co- yeah. So Compound Effect by Darren Hardley.
Compound Effect. I'll have to buy that book. I mean, I love that idea. And oftentimes, for me, I think part of it comes from, watching my mom and dad and sister, sacrifice so much on just a daily basis, just to kind of, help me get along.
Mm,
And ever since, watching that, and, being in a position where I couldn't help and I couldn't control myself, and I was kind of all over the place,
mm,
watching that made me so grateful of them. It kind of set me off in a way that, typically, I like to give more than receive. And so, like, writing off things that you're grateful for other people, that's one of my favorite things. Like in like a birthday card, or anything, I would prefer to have an empty card, or if there is, I like to write something, because each person that we encounter, both positive and negative experiences, help enhance our life.
mm.
And so I love the ideas that you just mentioned. Those are phenomenal.
Yeah, thank
And
you. I mean, that is just one paragraph of that book, and there are other items which I've not even mentioned. But that really stayed with me, and the experiment was really amazing for me. So hopefully you and everyone else, whoever's listening, please read the book and do that experiment for yourself or your others. So it's a great experiment.
Oh, absolutely. I can honestly, just out of curiosity, what was the biggest effect that you felt from doing that? So, were there some surprises in there?
Definitely. Like for example, I'll give you an example. There was uh, a friend of mine's daughter who graduated recently, and on the graduation card, you usually say, "Enjoy your next journey, whatever it is. Good luck and whatever." Right? And those are generic statements, right? For me, I actually knew what I was supposed to say because I actually wrote down certain things day by day. I mean, I prepared myself almost a month that she'll be graduating. I know that it will be invited. So why don't we do that experiment for those 30 days? And that's what I did. And guess what? I actually wrote a paragraph of a statement that which I felt for her when she graduated. So yeah, I think it's a great experiment. I mean, I've done it for my wife too, so hopefully you'll do for yours and your loved ones.
Oh, I think that's a great, well, and just being grateful for the people in your lives. I mean, that there's so many, wonderful experiences we have when we are fully engaged and listening.
Mm,
And I think a lot of times for us to write down things we appreciate about others, it
mm,
requires us to actually look both inwards at the things that how they've affected us, but
mm,
also really take a keen interest in the other person and put ourselves in their shoes.
mm,
Compassion, empathy are phenomenal tools
mm.
if they're utilized correctly. And so, that's something I will absolutely do and look forward to it. And I will definitely pick up that book. It sounds great.
Yeah,
So,
thank you, Kirk. And you and I will talk offline about between both of us and how we appreciate each other or not. So we'll talk about
absolutely.
that later. But Kirk, before you leave today, let me ask you this: you have a book, right? And it's called Chaos to Cured. Now,
Correct.
chaos, I mean, you answer that question, and cured, I think it's really explanatory, but why that title? I mean, did the process came first and the writing the book came first, or the title itself?
What was interesting is that, originally, scientifically, I wanted to, name it, chaos to remission, because, how do you say that something that has not been cured is a
Right.
cure? Do we even know if it is without, years of data? So I read a lot of the comments I had. I wrote it back in 2009,
Mm,
and I was actually asked to write the book. The people that I was working with, we started doing case studies, and our results were really phenomenal.
mm,
And we figured, without a book, without a story being out there for people to look at, research would hit a snag. And at that point in time, we wanted to see how far we could take it.
mm,
The medications that I was using were very unique for that purpose.
mm,
They treated the endocrine system. It won't spoil anything in the book, but they really wanted to have me write down a full journey of, okay, what was I going through? What was that like? And then the strangeness of actually being stable when all
mm,
of those things that were really causing chaos disappeared. So my life became cured. The word for, again, for bipolar and stuff like that, scientifically, there's still no, written cure.
mm,
I've been on the medication, and I'm the first medically documented person to utilize this protocol.
mm,
Um, and from my knowledge, I've been on it the longest for these terms as well in the world. And I met with a wonderful man. He's the founder of Amgen, the biotech company, and I met with him long before when I wrote the book. He was one of the people that suggested I go into coaching and help people.
mm,
And when I met with him this last year, he looked at me and he said, "Listen," he said, "anybody can do it for 6 months. Anybody can do it for a year." He said, "We're looking at over 10 years." He said, "It's a cure." He was, and he's very careful, as a medical professional, and just in the field that he's in, he has more, peer-reviewed journals and papers, I believe, than there's hundreds of them. So he's well respected, and so he's very cautious with his words. So to me, the journey, I wrote a second edition because it's been so long. A lot of the questions people did give me, or that they asked me, was where did it go? So the first edition of the book was shorter by, probably about 20,000 words. And I added those in. So a little bit of a prologue so people know kind of what the book's about, why I'm doing it. And then I added the end, like where I'm at now, the things I'm doing, and that, success and recovery is possible for anybody. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of support. But the end goal is always worth it. And I would say that for any person, if you have a dream, if you have something you desire, it doesn't matter how big the step is. Every little tiny step, and even a stumble backwards, can be helpful. It gives us time to reset, refocus. But don't ever stop. Chase your dream, believe in yourself. It's super important for any type of success. So
Yeah, thank you again, Kirk, for answering that question. But the second edition that you have, and you explained because there was a transition and people they asked you questions and how that change happened, if there is any change, right? Do you think we need to read the first one in order to understand the second one, or do you think it's just a revised version of what it was before?
I think that if you read either edition, if you're looking to see where I'm at now, and you're curious, okay, at the end of the book, it's like, okay, there's all this, and then did the treatment continue? Did it last? How long did it work for? Well, it's worked for over 10, 15 years. So yes, it works.
Mm,
I don't think that you would miss out if you're reading about the subject. I try to write it more in a story form so people
mm,
can really get into like what like a deep depression feels like, what that extreme mania feels like. Because I wanted family members to be able to go, oh, this is what my brother, sister, cousin, father, mother, doesn't matter, family
mm,
member, that's what they're feeling. So either book really gets into detail about what it feels like, the experience, so that you can kind of talk and assess. And you never want to self-diagnose, always go to a medical professional. But as far as that goes, it gives people a little bit of a guide,
mm,
and it shows them how detrimental it can be. And it's a really serious issue,
mm,
and a condition that needs to be, treated and taken seriously. If you read both of them, honestly, you're going to get the same core content. The only real reason to get the second edition is for the extra. And honestly, even reading the writing, my
mm,
writing is phenomenally different between what I wrote 9 years ago,
mm.
which is another fascinating thing. So I would say, if you get the newer edition one, it's got a white cover on it. There's a guy meditating on the front. There's like fire on one side and like calming water on the other side.
Mm,
Um, that one gives a little bit more insight. So if you actually even read just the words and you look at the language, how I was able to convey ideas and thoughts, it's drastically different, but the
mm.
core concepts are in both.
Yeah, so it seems like thank you again, Kirk, for that. So
Yeah.
the way it sounds like that you must have found your unleashed skill from your first book to your second book, and then your creativity kind of came out also. And I think you're getting a lot better now. But now here's a question: do you think you're gonna get a third edition to make a trilogy out of it? What are your thoughts on that?
I think probably, what I'm still working on is, getting a fourth phase of a clinical trial going, which is extremely expensive. It's around 20 million, which is something, I don't have in my back pocket, but we'll get there at some point.
Mm,
I don't see doing another edition, but I do see doing something more like a sequel.
mm,
So a secondary book that and go over a lot more options, and I guess experiences
Mm,
that I've dealt with since then.
mm,
It's been, my original title for the book was actually New to Normal.
mm,
And because going through what I did and coming out on the other end, when all of a sudden I was stable and I was like, driving a normal speed limit and following rules and everything else, I really didn't know how I fit into the world. I was so lost. So that's why the original title, New to Normal, actually really worked.
mm,
And I think part of what my journey has been is actually learning how to work and utilize my strengths um, to benefit, the people I work with and the people I care about, family, loved ones, definitely clients, and individuals that, I want to see succeed.
mm, mm.
So those are phenomenal questions, by the way. This has been a
Oh, thank you.
phenomenal interview.
Thank you, Kirk, for all that, and thank you again for being on the show. But before you leave, well, I have one last question. One is, besides your book, is there a book that you recommend for anyone that you interest you? Nothing related to anything. It's just a thought process of what you're reading now.
One of the things, I always suggest for people dealing with ADHD, a wonderful book is Right Brain Children and Left Brain World.
Mm,
Um, a good one that talks about that's really interesting for a host of different issues is called Neurotribe. So that's an interesting one. Honestly, most of the books I read are typically scientific journals. I'm typically doing more research than I actually do. I need to actually sit back and just read. I have a list of some phenomenal books that I would like to read. But some that I would suggest to people just to just flip open is Marcus Aurelius Meditations. That's a wonderful book
mm,
for people just to the thought process, what it spurs people to think when they read it. It's a phenomenal book.
mm,
So I
mm.
like that one. And then, of course, Hippocrates is one of my favorites.
Of course.
So
Kirk, thank you again for coming on the show. But before you leave, very quickly, any last words to all my viewers and my listeners of how your journey was on Back to Basics too?
what I would say is, the fundamentals, you can never go wrong. Going back and, mastering the core concepts of who you are, and then working towards the person you want to be. Never give up on yourself ever. Always reach out for help and assistance. There's no harm in doing so. And in fact, I think it's actually a bigger sign of strength when we're able to say, listen, I'm stuck here. I need a little bit of help.
Mm,
So, you know, don't hesitate. No, whatever you're going through, find a friend. If you need it, therapist, mental health professional, find somebody that you can talk to, and work through your issues with. And don't be shy about it, and be gentle with yourself. Like I
mm,
said before, give yourself grace. My experience here on this podcast, it's been wonderful, phenomenal questions that really kind of get at the heart of some of the issues that matter to me and I'm very, really passionate about. So
yeah.
it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, Kirk, thank you again for coming on the show. And hopefully we'll do a 2.0 version of Kirk for season 3 or even season 4 for that matter. But thank you again for all the support you have given me so far that I've known you. So thanks again.
Absolutely. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and definitely look forward to doing it again.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Thank you again. So, guys, we spoke with Kirk today and we talked about the basics of the transformation. We talked about the inner skill, the inner talent. Now, if you heard, we went from first edition to second edition, and what are the changes? What I heard is that graphics were awesome from first to second, the writing skills were awesome from first to second. So, what does that mean? You take that risk, you use that talent, and you grow. That's what it is. And the last thing, obviously, he did say that if someone does want help, don't hesitate to pick up a phone or email or someone. And it's not a shameful thing to ask for help because we all need help in once in a while. Now, as usual, as always, there is a quote of the day, and hopefully Kirk will like this quote. The quote is, "You cannot teach anybody anything. Only make them realize the answers are already inside them." Now, just like what I said, you find the right people, the right questions, you will get the answer. Because maybe you're not even noticing it. Now, as usual, as always, what do we always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, you take care. God bless. Keep on commenting on all my episodes because we're almost over on season 2. And with your love and support, please comment and rate the show because it does make me stronger day by day, week by week, and month by month because we do release every day. And we're very close. There are 3 things, according to this episode, makes it a hit for me, that is, which is the content, the guest, and definitely the host. Guys, take care, God bless, and I will see you next time on Back to Basics. Now remember, season 3, there's a new podcast that we'll be starting, which is called Back to Basic Mode Wisdom. So all the wisdoms and all the motivational speakers will be on the wisdom podcast for Back to Basics. And we're going to be having a total of 4 podcasts season 3. So stay tuned with all the stuff that I'm doing. And with your love and support, keep on smiling and keep on staying on Back to Basics. Take care. God bless. Next week's episode on
everything matters. That's why people try to keep us divided. But in fact, one thing is connected to everything. We're humans. We come from nothing, but in all actuality, science shows we are made of stars. How did that stardust get into us? You know, it's the same way as how did the fish get sick? How do the fish today have 3 heads and we're wanting to eat that? And by the way, if we say we're pro-life, you know, everybody is pro-life. We're all about living and living a good life and all of that. But yet we're doing what we're doing to our world.